Another day, another Diablo 2 character which gets the treatment of a mini playthrough, and today we are going to be looking at the holiest of them all, the Paladin. Also, yes, it's that boy. Now the Pally starts out different to all of the other characters that I have covered in this format because he is going to be a melee character in the beginning. Therefore, some different mechanics will govern how much damage our character does, and one that I want to explain first is attack rating. Attack rating is pretty straightforward actually. It determines the percentage chance you have to hit another monster. When you are a caster like the Necromancer, your spells have a 100% chance to hit the monster in its way, but the same is not true for melee characters. To increase attack rating, you could do what I just did and spend points in dexterity or find gear which gives you +2 attack rating. Since this stat is pretty much essential for me to inflict damage, I do often like to keep my dexterity and vitality at the same level when playing the Paladin in his melee stage. Other than that, for skills, early on I'm using Sacrifice, which basically gives a boost to accuracy and damage but takes away a bit of life as its cost. Not too much though, so it's all good. Although melee characters are fun since you get to experience this hack and slash game to the fullest, the fact that your attacks miss and that you have no area of effect does make them overall slower than casters. Therefore, for my build, I will try to mitigate both of those shortcomings. As you can see, I also put a point into Might when I got to level 2, which serves as a nice aura for early game and also serves as a prerequisite for my main aura that I'm going to be getting later on. Using Might aura right now though, I went to take out Blood Raven. The weapon of choice for my early game Paladin is just a white scepter that I bought from Akara simply because scepters deal the most physical damage and aren't all that slow either. Blood Raven was an easy kill, but the Rakonishu pack in the Stony Field can be a dangerous one. Having a few javelins here is definitely recommended as it helps you snipe him and his minions out from a safe distance. I didn't follow my own advice though and just one-shotted him with the scepter. One thing you may have noticed is that I was missing a lot while trying to kill him and his minions. That is because Rakonishu's monster level is higher than the others around him, and therefore my chance to hit him drops significantly. Things took a turn for the better though when I got to level 6. This was where I was able to put a point into my main attacking aura, that being Holy Fire. This aura adds fire damage to your attacks, and having elemental damage in the early game is very helpful since monsters have low resistances. Also, it allowed me to use gas potions, which are an amazing item for a melee character as you can slowly drain multiple monsters' health, giving you more leeway with your attacks. Another area where gas potions are handy is while killing the Countess. This is because she is always fire enchanted and therefore more resistant to fire damage, which is my main source of damage. Due to that, I am putting all my points into Holy Fire, and from levels 3 to 5 I put points into Resist Fire, which synergizes with Holy Fire. The Countess is a very helpful quest for early game characters as she drops runes which when put into socketed items yield rune words which give very powerful stat bonuses. The only rune word that I built with my Paladin was the stealth rune word, that being Tal and Eth in a 2-socketed armor. This gives faster run walk, hit recovery, cast rate and some poison res as well, all of which are very helpful. I also tried to find an L rune to build a Steal, which gives 25% increased attack speed, but since I wasn't able to get it, I didn't build Steal. It's not that important anyways, since we would be respeccing to hammers at level 18. The reason why Steal can be nice is because since all my damage comes from Holy Fire and none from the physical stats on my weapon now, I can just use a very fast attacking weapon with low damage to increase my overall DPS. But like I said, it's not all that important, and a 10% increased attack speed scimitar like I'm using here works just fine. The only way steel can make a real big difference is if I find 10% increased attack speed gloves, and then it does significantly increase the attacks performed per second, but like I said, it'll only be till level 18, so it is not worth spending too much time farming them either. Speaking of levels, when I got to level 12, I put points into two skills. One that you can see me using here, that is charge. I bind my charge on the right mouse button and press shift plus click, which allows me to move while charging. I don't actually use this as an attacking move, just to move around quickly. The other skill that I got was Zeal, which is my main attacking skill. This skill allows you to hit multiple monsters with one swing and is very useful when you're surrounded by enemies, like when clearing out a boss pack. With all that in my arsenal, I reached Andariel. This lady has negative fire resistance, and the fact that our damage all comes in the form of fire elemental damage doesn't really bode well for her either. Even for being a melee character, the Paladin kills Andariel really fast and gets Act 1 wrapped up once and for all. Getting to Act 2 felt great because here I could buy minor mana potions which provide faster mana regeneration so that I can charge around uninterrupted. I also killed all the boss packs I came across for experience, since I would love to be level 18 before Duriel, since taking him on as a melee character doesn't sound all that fun. One more operation that I performed here was similar to what I did with the Necromancer. I hoarded a bunch of chip gems all throughout Act 1 and 2 and then bought cheap blue scepters from Akara. I put them in with 3 chip gems, and this recipe is used to convert a magical item to a magical item with sockets, but it also upgrades the item level to 25, which means that crafting a +3 to Blessed Hammer Scepter is possible. Unfortunately, I did not get one, but still, the scepters that I crafted had higher level skills and sold for way more gold than I bought them for. The Maggot Lair is one place where I am glad though that I am not a Hammerdin yet. Being a melee character here is beneficial since monsters can't gang up on you. Also, being a melee character, you only have to focus on attacking monsters from one side, which makes them easier to kill. Speaking of Hammerdin though, I reached level 18 in the Arcane Sanctuary, where I found the way on my 4th attempt. I like to respec as soon as I get to 18, and that's what I did here. For it, I put the required points into strength and also bumped up my energy a bit, since hammers and charge are both skills that require a fair bit of mana. Then I dumped the rest into vitality and went for the skills. Now my main damaging skill is going to be Blessed Hammer, so I put a point into that. Then, for my offensive aura, Concentration is the pick as it increases the damage of hammers by a crazy amount. I also went into defensive aura section and picked up Vigor. I really like to have this aura active when I'm charging around, and it also gives extra damage to Blessed Hammer. The rest of the points I put into Blessed Aim for more hammer damage and left a few since I will be skilling hammers, Conk and Vigor, all 3 in the upcoming levels. For my gear, I switched in my FCR rings and equipped a scepter with +1 to Blessed Hammer that I bought from Drognan. Some people like to wait a couple more levels to get the hammer respec, and I can see why, since they do start out kinda slow. However, a couple levels later, the damage scales immensely with hammers, you won't even notice, and soon you'll start hitting like a truck. Speaking of trucks, one battle where hammers are way superior to a melee setup is Duriel. This is because this guy has Holy Freeze and cold damage always slows down melee attacks. That isn't to say that you shouldn't drink thawing potions before this fight either, but with the hammered in, this fight does go a lot smoother. What doesn't go nearly as smooth is Act 3. This is because it has a lot of dungeon areas like the Spider Cavern, which are bad for a hammered in. Your attacks are constantly interrupted by walls and other obstructions, and it is very easy to get cornered with amp damage on you, as I got there. Coming back to the cave, however, I was able to drag Sark out and get him with my hammers. Another reason why this act sucks are the flares. Now these dudes are always annoying, but with the hammered in especially, you are kind of frail and setting up hammers can take time, so keeping a rejuvenation in your belt is always recommended for the flare jungle. Fortunately, what isn't that horrible though is Mephisto. I got to around level 24 before attempting to kill him so that I could use my teleport staff to navigate through Durance. Also, my hammer damage had increased a ton, therefore his health went down pretty fast. This is where the hammered in shines really. Brute power. Apart from a couple of close calls, this fight was mostly painless and made me very excited for Act 4. And that's because Act 4 with the hammered in is my favorite act, because it literally seems to be made for him. There are no magic immunes. If anything, everything is super vulnerable to magic damage. That combined with open areas all around means that killing monsters is super easy and satisfying. The same theme carries on through Chaos and onto Diablo, however, this guy can obviously be very dangerous. He has a whole host of attacks that can kill me very easily and very quickly, and he isn't going to refrain from using them either. However, in the end, my hammers just proved a little too much for him to handle, and he went down. Act 5 consists of a lot of caves, and these offer a middle ground. They don't offer the same openness that the Chaos did, but neither are they all closing up on you like the dungeons of Act 3. In this place, through good character placement, letting go of hammers is possible and it gets the job done very well. Act 5 also contains the Ancients. Now before fighting these guys, I like to get the flow of the hammers going and then summon them. In this way I can continuously damage them starting as soon as they spawn. The one dude to look out for here is Talik. He is a jerk and can really damage you with Whirlwind, so keep a safe distance from him and make sure to dodge his attacks and you should be all good. The rest too are easy and don't really hit that hard in normal, so this fight was in the bag. So, if you watch some of my other mini playthroughs, well, thanks first of all, and next, you would probably know about the bittersweet relationship that I have with the normal Lister pack, since I can never kill them. Not with the Pally though. This holy dude is the symbolism of power, and those piercing hammers can put an end to anything, even if it is the strongest and tankiest group of them all. Goodbye, Lister pack. They can also put an end to Baal. A PSA here, if you want to take out single targets using hammers, one advice that always works is to stand super close to the monster. Now although someone like Diablo may one-shot you if you do that, Baal is a lot tamer, and although he hits hard, downing a couple of rejues is all it takes to keep him off you enough that you're able to kill him with hammers. And that was the end of normal, and I was able to get through it with 0 deaths. Time for Nightmare now. One quest that I always like to complete in Nightmare as well is the Countess. The runes she drops here are pretty good as well and can come handy to make some easy to build rune words. What I don't like though is archer groups within this tower, and I would recommend that you never fight them. The first reason you can see on your screens, and the main one, is that because they're ranged fighters, they'll always keep their distance to you, and since the tower has narrow corridors, it is very difficult to get a chain of hammers going so that it can hit them. So yeah, don't fight them. But I did kill the Countess a few times and have got my gear ready for Nightmare now. In my weapon slot, I have a 20 FCR wand. Some may be shocked by the absence of a plus skills scepter in here, but I actually prefer having FCR to plus skills. What is unfortunate about that though is that right now with my wand, my 2 FCR rings, and my stealth, I am at an awkward 65 FCR. You see, with cast rate, there are breakpoints at which your attacks get faster. For the Paladin, your attacks won't get faster till you go to either 45 or after that 75 faster cast rate. So basically I am waiting for an amulet. Right now I have this 11 all res one to compensate and to hold the place till I find one with FCR on it. Next is my helmet, which is the rune word Lore. Ort and Saul in a helmet gives you +1 to all skills and lightning resistance, which are both excellent attributes for a caster. My shield is an Ancient's Pledge in a kite shield. The reason that I'm using the kite shield for the base is because it falls under the lightweight category and therefore doesn't hinder movement speed at all. Complementing that are my boots with 30 faster run walk. I would actually not mind replacing these with some res boots since I have a lot of faster run walk with Vigor as it is. My belt is 27 light res Demonhide Sash, which is a blue item that I purchased from Nightmare Charcy, and so are my gloves that have 17 fire resistance. Pretty generic stuff, but that help the overall resistance numbers. They're looking pretty good at the moment with lightning maxed and fire probably sitting a little lower than I would like. My damage with blessed hammers is 679 per hammer, and yes, that's a lot. If multiple of those get hurled at you in quick succession, you're gone. Also, my life pool is up to 575 life. I also have built this thing. This is the black rune word, and the only stat worth looking at here is the 40% chance for a crushing blow. This would be really useful for super tanky bosses, as crushing blow brings down 1/8 of a boss's current HP. When struck in rapid succession, it can cripple a monster down to 1 HP really quick. Do I even need this? Considering that a Pally is such a monster with hammers himself, I don't know, but I still built it. Well, I guess I won't be needing it anytime soon, because after a little while of starting Nightmare, I was able to craft a 10 FCR 12 light res Ami by morphing 3 magical rings. This now brings my total FCR to 75, which is what I was aiming from the beginning, and makes me a very happy Chinmay. Someone who isn't that happy though is Indario. Like I said, I didn't think that I would need black anytime soon, and I was correct. That 75 FCR breakpoint really is a lot of fun to cast hammers with, and they come out in such rapid succession with so much power that her health drops immensely anyways. She herself can be a little dangerous, especially when you stand super close to her, which you probably will, to land your hammers, but having a couple of rejuvenations in your belt, and you should have this fight in the bag as well. Been seeing that a lot, having the fight in the bag. Anyways, one place that can be surprisingly dangerous are the sewers that lead to Radamant in Act 2. This is mainly because of the monsters that can spawn here, and they are the fiery archer bros. Ranged monsters for some reason are super OP in this game, and they do handicap your pally a bit since they stand far away from you. Also, since these guys were firing fire arrows, my lack of fire res was also showing and made the situation a bit spoopy. What wasn't spoopy though was Radamant himself. As long as the monsters that spawn next to him are just skeleton soldiers, he's not tough to take down. Just be wary of archers and kill them first before going in for this guy. Now since I had built black, I thought I might as well use it at some point, and what point is more ideal than Duriel? Now as you may see, my attack of choice here is Smite, and that is because this attack never misses, regardless of attack rating. I also have Fanaticism Aura, which increases my attack speed basically. Because of all this, I was able to bring down Duriel to a very low HP very quickly. It's kinda just a shame that getting him down from there was even quicker. Well, guess I don't need that black after all. Act 3, like I mentioned in normal, is my least favorite act as a Hammerden. Yet again, you are forced into claustrophobic caves with amp damage monsters ready to Shrek your face, and half your hammers end up hitting the walls. In case of flare dungeons, they can be packed with bats, ghosts, flares, and dolls, so yeah, that place is Rip City and can take a couple of tries to clear out. Mephisto, however, doesn't. I don't know why I used black in this fight. I guess to show the attack speed that I'm able to achieve with Fanaticism, which I wasn't able to at Duriel since I was constantly frozen, but yeah, it's pretty good and very effective. As you can see, Mephi got crippled really quick. The only counter argument to that is that hammers could have done the job just as easily and just as quickly, but it's okay. If I'll have to be spoiled for options, I guess that's my burden to bear. And a very pleasant burden too, may I add. The Plains of Despair is a pretty rippy area as well, since the souls here are brutal. Even though I had max res, I tried my best to avoid them. Unfortunately, in doing that, I got cursed and got two-shotted by those necro dudes. They do hit pretty hard, but that was an unfortunate death, as here you can see in the chaos, killing them is no problem at all. The chaos just continues to be my favorite areas with the Hammerden yet again. With your crazy DPS and AoE, this area just allows you to waltz around, let a couple hammers loose every now and again, and you just see monsters crumble in their tracks and you didn't even have to worry about them. The same is true for the 3 lesser evils as well. Since none of them are magic immune, Infector, Vizier, and Decise are all easy peasy, and the last one also ended up dropping me some War Travs. 47% as well. I mean, I'm definitely not gonna be using these, 96 strength, screw that, but these sure are one GG find, just for bragging rights if nothing else. All jokes, fun things and bragging comes to an end though when it is time for Diablo. One good thing about Diablo in Nightmare is that his lightning hose attack starts a little further. If you look closely, the animation of the attack starts behind my Paladin and therefore doesn't damage me at all. Even still, you should not take him for granted, as he still has a wide range of attacks which he can use to cause all sorts of problems for you. He just wasn't able to do it in my case. Act 5 Nightmare is when this game turns from, oh yeah, you may die here or there, to you will die everywhere if not careful. Being a paladin, you don't have a lot of bulk, and oftentimes offense is your best way to defend. In those situations, having high enough FCR to constantly hit stun the monster to ensure survival really pays off. The Nightmare Ancients fight is not that tough though. The one guy to watch out for in particular is Talik, as his rapid attacks can leave you hit stunned, and then you can get prone to more attacks by the various Ancients. If you keep good distance from him and dodge his whirlwinds, you should be good. Another thing to watch out for are some bad rolls on the Ancients like Cursed, Might, or Fanatic Aura, as with those they do a lot more damage. To be fair, you as a paladin do a lot of damage too. Just walking around and occasionally letting go of hammers does take down the Ancients pretty quick. As you will see on the level up here, I was leveling Concentration at this point since my Blessed Hammer skill was already maxed. After Conk, I would be putting all my skill points into Vigor. What I would be doing right now though is killing Baal. The Baal waves in Nightmare are a joke and go down really easy. Baal himself can be a pretty annoying fight, especially if you decide to switch weapons mid-fight. The kill can be pretty slow. That was something that I took into consideration and will not be using black against him in my magic find runs. Other than that, taking out Baal is not that tough because you do have crazy DPS. It just can be a little annoying with his cold damage V-shaped attacks and his appendages and his clones and his physical attack that does okay fine. It is annoying, but it can be done. Speaking of magic find runs though, since I can clear the chaos so easily, I decided to do these first. Killing Diablo and clearing chaos takes less time for me than doing a Baal run, and Diablo himself is a much less annoying of a beast and can also sometimes drop unique amulets. This one was not all that useful though. It was the cat's eye. This thing has some faster run walk and attack speed, both stats that are really cool but not necessary, and I mean, it's a cool find nonetheless, I guess. On the other hand, clearing the chaos gave me way less experience than a normal Baal run would, which was a big drawback of it. For better experience, I went over to do some Nightmare cows. The secret cow level can be entered by morphing Wurt's leg with the Tome of Town Portals. The problem with doing cow runs though was that there was a distinct lack of items that dropped here. Also, I killed the Cow King, and yeah, if you kill the Cow King in the cow level, you can't recreate the portal and get to the level, so yeah. Baal runs it is. Baal runs overall offer the best place to magic find, can be done reliably over and over again, and give you decent levels. As an added bonus, if Baal is feeling generous, he may also drop you a unique Ami, this one being a lot more useful, Nokazun's Relic. 20% FHR and 50% fire resistance can come in pretty handy to increase my survivability in hell, and I will keep this Ami under consideration. Once I get to a certain level, close to about 70, I switch over to doing LK runs. These I mostly do to better my financial condition for hell, and also for later as I like to gamble at Anya. But you never know what may drop here, like this grand charm. And you know what they say, third time's the charm. The third skiller I've ever found turns out to be a useful one. I mean, this won't even increase my damage all that much, but I am 1000% keeping it. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Once I get to about 1,000,000 gold, I like to go to Anya to gamble for coronets and circlets, since they can spawn with +3 to character specific skill trees and other useful mods. This gambling is the main reason that I level my character up to around 70, because if you try to do this before, most of the things that you'll gamble would be pretty trash. And yeah, as it turns out, my gear is pretty trash for hell as well. It honestly isn't all that bad, but sometimes, you know, the game really does give you everything you want. And other times, you end up with gear like mine. In my weapon slot, I have a blue scepter that I bought from Drognan in Nightmare, and it has +3 to combat skills. You can buy a lot better blue scepters than this one. Ones with up to +5 to Blessed Hammer and some points to Conk as well, but even farming this took me a good while, so I'm just happy with this. Speaking of other things that I settled for, this coronet. Again, you can get way better coronets than this, but one benefit of this one is that it allows me to wield my +3 to skill scepter and still maintain my 75 FCR breakpoint, since my jewelry and chest piece are virtually identical to the ones that I had in Nightmare. Then is the shield. Yet another super ghetto setup, but 104 to all res. This is the benefit that you get as a paladin, ladies and gentlemen, that you can find shields like this with 32 all-res and 4 sockets and then put 4 P diamonds in there for mass resistances. This is a charge though, and therefore I am not running max block. I don't believe in running that for other reasons as well. That being that I would have to take my skill points out for my damaging skills to put them into Holy Shield and take points out of Vitality and put them into Dex. Next, my boots are 30 faster run walk with 39 cold resistance, which are very cool if I do say so myself. My Demonite sash and gloves are literally unchanged though. Then is my best find of this entire character, probably, the +1 to offensive auras skiller, among with some random charms that give +2 resistances, life, and some faster run walk. With all that crap, my resistances are looking pretty good in hell, and so is my damage with Blessed Hammer, 3.3 thousand. My life pool is also at 1275, and I guess with all that, I am ready to take on hell. Now with that high magical damage, completing hell quests like the Countess is no trouble. Usually I do farm the hell Countess before showing off my gear, and with this character, I did think about farming a Mal or 2 Ist runes to make a Gaul, but decided against both, and therefore I am doing this quest now. The quest that I show most often after my hell character reveal is Andy. Now by this point I had full trust in Blessed Hammer's power and didn't feel the need to bring my black around with me. Don't get me wrong, it is still an item I have in my stash because I think it will be useful for much tankier bosses, and Dariel is just not one of them, as you can see. Maggot Lair in Hell is pretty much hell. In this difficulty, encountering mob packs with modifiers like Midora is not uncommon, and that can be very bad, especially when you get stuck in between a few. There aren't any monsters that I can't kill per se in this cave, but the way hammers fire in a circle, because of that, it is incredibly difficult to combat efficiently down here. Therefore, I mostly just like to teleport across this place using my offhand teleport staff. One advantage with my gear is that I can teleport at 75 FCR since none of my faster cast rate comes from my weapon. The disadvantage though is that I am -30 res across the board when I switch away from my charge, so teleporting in the middle of mob packs can be really spoopy. After blowing through pretty much my entire stash of full rejuvenations, I was finally able to get to the staff, but found that I was still getting my ass kicked by little worms, and therefore I just thought it was better to peace out. It often happens in Diablo 2 that the road to getting to the boss is often much harder than the final boss itself, and this scenario just shows it in action. With thawing potions, my cold resistance is sitting at 85 since they increase your max cold resistance by 10, and therefore I take very little damage from Duriel's cold and physical attacks, and he takes a lot of damage from my hammers, quite like all the monsters, and therefore is a very fast and easy kill. If I've said it once, I have said it a million times. Act 3 is a bitch. Not even with the Hammerden because claustrophobic dungeons, just in general because these tiny little flares can bunch up on you at any time without warning, and there is not much you can do about them, just run a bit further away, pop rejuice and attack and hope they die. They're easy to kill though because their health is fairly low, but they can also ruin your day, so be aware. Oh, look at this Mal rune by the way. Thanks game. A bit too little too late though. Don't think I'm interested in building a sanctuary anymore. That's because I'm pretty satisfied with my gear and plan to take it to the end of the game, which goes through Mephisto. My damage is pretty good, so I still did not feel the need to whip out the black yet, since Mephisto's health also went down really fast. My high resistance also paid off big time in this fight since in this fight as Mephi was not nearly as dangerous except for his physical attacks. If only you had max block, Chinmay. Yes, well, if I did, guess what? Max block doesn't block elemental damage and my low vitality would have come to bite me then. Max block is nice to have on fully geared characters, not on leveling ones, such as my Paladin right here. Okay, after that rant, I guess it is time to cool down, and what better way to do that than to just clear the chaos. I know I've said it a lot, but God is it satisfying. The Diablo fight though is anything but. This was my second time fighting Hell Diablo actually, because he killed me once before, but I just used that as an excuse to clear the CS again, so it's all good. What is also good that this time he did stick mostly to using his lightning hose attack, which does no damage, and therefore for the most part this fight was harmless and super chill. Three dudes that have no chill, however, are the Hell Ancients. Now, as always in this fight, the dude to watch out for is Talik, because he can wreck your stuff pretty bad by leaving you infinitely stun locked, and then the other two can follow up. However, one more problem that was with my Ancient role was that Madoc turned out to be cursed. I didn't really carefully check to see if these guys' stats in the beginning because I was confident enough in my damage that I knew I would be able to kill all of them as long as they're not magic resistant, and that turned out to be a mistake, since I always had to maneuver away from Madoc first since I really don't want to be cursed in this battle. One additional advice for this fight would be to drop some potions on the ground beforehand so that you can use them during the fight in case you drain out your belt and your inventory. Madoc did catch me a couple of times with amp damage, but was the first one to go down, since he is the ancient with the least amount of HP. Talik followed suit, which was also nice to see, since the two dudes that I was scared of the most had died. Korlik does hit hard, but not nearly as much, and I felt comfortable standing in the pocket with him for a while and finishing him off to complete the quest. This quest, however, did leave me a little dry on funds, so I decided to make that up by doing some Hell Lure Kuras runs to ensure that I have enough money for teleports and potions while I fight Baal. Hell LK runs can be a lot more dangerous, especially at player's 8, since monsters do a lot more damage to you than in Nightmare. But like they say, fortune favors the brave, and this time it turned out to be true. I guess I have a complete set now? LOL? +1 to defensive aura skiller. GG. But not so soon. We still have a lot of work to do before we can safely say GG, and by that I mean Wave 2 of Baal. Now the way that I like to kill these guys is to first of all drag all the mages out away from where they can be resurrected and annoy me with their cold damage, and take them out quickly with hammers. After that I go back towards their daddies, and for these guys I use Holy Bolt. Holy Bolt also deals magic damage like Blessed Hammers, but breaks the immunity for undead monsters, so I put a few points into this skill and got its damage up to around 1000. Even still, as you can see, its damage is pretty lackluster and nowhere near as cool as something like Corpse Explosion with the Necrodancer, but it gets the job done eventually. And the job continues to get done against the Lister pack in Hell. Blessed Hammer comes through, and even though these guys had Fanaticism aura, which can be really scary, my skill had no problem taking these things out safe and sound. So there are only two left for the final showdown: Baal and Black. Yes, it finally gets used. Hellbale is pretty tanky, and therefore I thought it appropriate to use it for this fight. Unfortunately, now I realize that this is gonna make the fight super fast, so I gotta say my end speech kinda fast too. Thanks for watching. I hope you like this. Thanks for 1k views on the Necro. I mean, goddamn. If you're wondering if I'll make more Diablo 2 stuff, then yes, I will. But there is also other stuff that I really want to play, so I hope you're not too off-put by that. Other than that, hope you find this content riveting. Yours truly, with love.